What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Wawa Echo. I'm Parker,
I'm Zach.
I'm Rachel.
and we have just gotten done watching Clash of Champions 2017. So now we are here for our aftermath video where we're going to talk about what we thought of the pay per view and where we think the storylines might be headed in the future. So we're just gonna jump on in with that. Overall, I would say this was probably one of the worst pay per views of the year.
One of the worst.
And we're done, guys. See you later. No, not really. Yes.
But now we're going to pick apart match by match.
Yes.
Why this was terrible.
There were a couple of positive points, but not very many.
Right. And we'll start off with the kickoff show, which just featured Mojo Rawley versus Zack Ryder, and neither one of us cared. No one cared about this match. And the match didn't feature anything. Like maybe 2 or 3 good spots throughout a 6-minute, 7-minute match. Like that's it, and it was overall boring. Really, just nothing was good about this match. Other than I guess the right person won. I mean, of the two, if you can even call it the right person. Either way, Mojo Rawley did defeat Zack Ryder. Nothing special.
Super push for Mojo Rawley for the World Championship.
This was definitely a contender for the best match of 2017. All right, so
I thought it was Rusev Day, not opposite day.
Oh yeah, you're right. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this match. It was terrible.
Yeah. Coming up next to start the main show, we had the triple threat match for the United States Championship between Baron Corbin, Bobby Roode, and Dolph Ziggler. There wasn't a whole lot to this match really either. It was really slow starting to me. And when you've got like a triple threat match, you really need to have it kind of be a bit more fast paced than this was, I guess. And there wasn't a whole lot, honestly, that was super memorable about the match other than the ending of it. We had Baron. He was doing stuff. Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler did start off by kind of teaming up to take Baron out for a little bit and make it kind of one-on-one for a while, which wasn't probably the smartest on Dolph's part since we saw him lose to Bobby Roode just a couple months ago in one-on-one action. So that happened, and so that was kind of smart to eliminate the biggest guy. But of course, Baron did eventually get back in, and he would, and it kind of was a lot of back and forth. Mostly in I would say maybe Roode's. I think he kind of dominated the match for the most part. I don't really remember. It's been a couple hours, so I'm not sure. But I think Bobby Roode probably had the most amount of offense in there, which I would say he's the guy you'd want to push out of the three anyways. So that was cool. The ending was interesting, and it could have been, if executed a little bit better, it could have been one of the best endings for a match in quite some time. We saw Baron Corbin go for his finisher, the End of Days, on Bobby Roode, and as he was starting to do that, Dolph Ziggler came up from behind and went for his finisher, the zigzag, which could have looked really cool to knock Bobby Roode out to give him a reason for why he didn't, break up the pin. But Roode wasn't able to get fully around in time. I don't know if that was on purpose or he was supposed to land like he landed. I'm not sure. Maybe they just didn't want to risk trying the double team thing and it going the way it usually goes. I'm not sure. But because of that, Dolph Ziggler was able to pin Baron Corbin and become the new United States champion, which is an interesting decision. Definitely not one that many, if anyone, saw coming. Everyone mostly just figured that Dolph was in the match just to, take the pin, which perhaps it's that very reason why they gave him the win, just because that's how kind of WWE does sometimes, is to keep us on our toes or whatever. So I'm not sure where Dolph's going to go from here because his his gimmick for not caring about entertaining us anymore and just focusing on wrestling. I'm not sure how that lends to a champion. I'm not. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, but I can't really think of what continues. Like, does Dolph just lose it this SmackDown or the next? Really, it's up in the air. This feud's been so weird that honestly it could go any way. So.
And then we have the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship contested and Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match, which featured the Usos, who were and still are the champions, the New Day, Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, and Rusev and Aiden English. And this match, honestly, we expected it to be one of the best of the night, and it was very underwhelming. Mainly because there was so much going on. They had all four teams represented in the ring at once instead of the usual one-on-one, and then anyone can tag in. So there were at least four people in the ring at all times. And things just got crazy. It was way too much to focus on, so it was really hard to be entertained. It was really hard to focus on the smaller details in the match. And it did have a really good ending, though. A lot of the ending sequences were really nice. It really looked like Rusev was going to take the victory. It looked like Aiden English was going to. It looked like the New Day was a couple of times, and Chad Gable was looking very strong, as we know that he is. But he continues to put on very athletic showcasing, and then the Usos come out and pick up the victory. And we didn't, neither one of us saw this coming. Not only just because we both predicted against the Usos, but also because this features three other really good teams on SmackDown, and two of them being rather newer, with Aiden English and Rusev pretty much being the newest, I would say. And we thought maybe this is a way to build one of those two up, or maybe give it to the New Day and give it to, or feud with one of the other two or whatever. But we thought the Usos were definitely going to lose this one, and so I don't know what this means for the future, because it it seems like the Usos were having a rivalry with Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, but then they have this match that features all four of them. So I don't know if that continues or what. But it's hard to say that this was like bad in comparison to the full card, though. I don't know what you would say about that. Like, I mean,
It was probably
just
still one of the stronger matches,
right, and because you
only
have
because of how bad the other ones were.
right, and it's not like the match was downright terrible. It was just so hard to focus that that's what made it lose interest. Because you had such good people in this match. And
cool spots. Rusev went wild for a while.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was super over. Like, the crowd kept chanting
goodness.
Rusev Day.
It was really good.
It was great.
I liked it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that match.
Yeah. And up next we had the lumberjack match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, contested between the champion Charlotte Flair versus Natalia. I did not enjoy anything about this match. For one thing, Charlotte and Natalia have wrestled each other so many times over the past couple of years. They had like a really great match in NXT 2 or 3 years ago, and then they renewed their rivalry back in, I think, 2015, when they had Ric Flair and Bret Hart in their corners, kind of having that be a focal point as well. And so, because of that, this match, compared to those in the past, they've kind of done it all, and they've kind of, it's one of those where it's been so overdone, that it's gotten to be boring. And Natalia, while she's an excellent in-ring performer, her character is so bad right now that they really need to kind of get her out of the spotlight and maybe take her off TV for a bit and figure out something fresh with her, to liven her up and maybe have her be a little more well liked, because she's just really hated And the match itself, of course, the Lumberjacks were heavily featured, as they always are. And I hate Lumberjack matches. They're probably, at this point, my least favorite stipulation because it's the same every single time. And it was so sad just looking at this group, and it was just 7 people on the outside when normally it's a whole like 20 people or whatever, and it was just not exciting. And the Lumberjacks were being dumb because they were, kind of 3 different factions. You had Naomi as the only like face there, and then you had the welcoming committee uh, group together, and then the Riot Squad. And so when the welcoming committee would attack Charlotte, then the Riot Squad would come in and throw them off so they could fight her, beat her up. And then when the Riot Squad would go for her, then the welcoming committee would throw them off and beat her up. It's just annoying and makes no sense because like just do your job and you're just supposed to make sure that they don't get out of the ring and try and run away. That's literally all you're supposed to do. And it was just really annoying to me. It wasn't exciting. There was nothing interesting at all about the match. There was no, Charlotte did her moonsault, which is always nice to see. Moonsaults are really cool, but literally other than that, there was nothing, exciting at all. And then Charlotte did eventually make Natalia tap with the figure 8, and hopefully Natalia will no longer be wrestling Charlotte anytime soon, and hopefully we'll get a new number one contender. Who that might be, I'm not totally sure. It'll be interesting with the the women's Royal Rumble match having been announced. It'll be interesting if there will even be any women's championship matches at the Royal Rumble because obviously that Royal Rumble will take a lot of time that would go to other matches. Um, so it'll be interesting if they have or uh, any or one or both still championship matches, and so they may just kind of move the table. They may just kind of what's it called when you do that in tread? Is it tread water? I'm not sure. They may
I
have
don't know what
them.
you're trying to say.
Where you tread water is you stay in one place and you don't really.
I get what you're saying about that, but like
it's an analogy.
I don't know what you're saying about like I don't know where you're going.
I'm thinking that they might not like move into a story where you're like, oh, this is definitely what they're doing. It's going to be this person as the number one contender, but because you're going to need most everybody except for your champions be in the match because there's so few women actually on the roster. Um, I just don't know if they're going to want to like have a definite number one contender created anytime soon, and especially since we do only have like 3 weeks until the Royal Rumble. It's not really a lot of time to build another feud. So it'll be interesting what they decide to do. I just hope it's not Natalia. That's about it.
Next, we have the match between Breezango and the Bludgeon Brothers, and what a fantastic 10-minute match this was. I'm just kidding. This is only 2 minutes. Literally nothing to say about this. It went exactly how everyone. It was so predictable. Well, they did get a little more offense than I thought they would, which I kind of knew they would get something, like maybe a few kicks in, but it's just I don't understand hardly anything that's going on because like we've had the Fashion Files for so long and it's built up to them versus the Bludgeon Brothers, but like since the Bludgeon Brothers are so destructive, like they have to basically annihilate Breezango or Febreze in such a short time period. So like I don't know if that means they're gonna have another match later on where like it may look like they're gonna get some redemption or if they just completely drop it. And I would not be surprised with it being WWE if they just drop it, especially after the promo at the end of the match where I think it was Harper said something like this is the beginning of the end or something like that. Or I can't remember his exact words, but it made it seem like they were just going to move on to something a little better. So who knows if that means a championship match or if that means they'll keep going after Breezango. That would be pointless right now. But whatever it is, I don't know. I still am on the fence about the Bludgeon Brothers. How I feel about them. Currently, kind of liking them. But we'll see how that plays out.
And one quick thing that I did forget to mention that he kind of reminded me of in his talking after the match, after the women's match, Natalia did have a promo where it was very interesting. It looked like maybe she might be retiring, or it could be that she's just going away for a little while to hopefully reinvent herself. That would be nice. But it'd kind of be a shame if she was going to retire right before the first ever women's Royal Rumble, seeing as she's like the oldest. She's been in the WWE probably I think the longest out of any other women. So that would be kind of not really fair to her if she was forced to miss that. Um, but it was interesting. It's still very heel promo though. So um, just something I remember because he talked about the Bludgeon Brothers post match promo. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I wanted to mention. And the match after the Bludgeon Brothers was the kind of the focus of the whole night, really.
Which is ironic because it's the Clash
No,
of Champions.
yeah, and not the main event.
Yeah.
But it's got a McMahon involved, so it's obviously the most important thing ever.
Got to, yeah.
It was the tag team match between the team of Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura versus the best friends that are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, with not one but two special guest referees in Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. Um, um, I'm not sure about this match whether I could say that I enjoyed it or not. Um, if I look at it from like a just purely in ring wrestling standpoint, there wasn't anything really like incredibly like rare or interesting that we don't see all the time. It kind of felt mostly like a normal tag team main event on SmackDown, other than the table spot where Kevin Owens did frog splash Shinsuke Nakamura through the table. That was pretty cool. But other than that, it kind of felt from an in-ring standpoint just like any main event tag team match on SmackDown, which is a little disappointing from such a hyped up match. But the main focus, as is very apparent, of what it actually was about, and that was Shane and Daniel. I'm not sure where this is gonna like continue. But there were some entertaining things in the beginning where they would both go for a pin at the same time, but it'd be like offbeat. They wouldn't be like 1, 2, 3. It'd be like 1, 2. It was weird and it was funny, but it it was a little too much. I hated that it was a little too much focused on their thing, whatever it is. Um, and then eventually they did come to a decision that they would split the ring down the middle, and Shane would take one side and Daniel Bryan would take the other side, and they would focus on that. And so it went a little more smoothly for a little bit, but eventually it did kind of uh, go down. It kind of spiraled out of control when uh, Sami Zayn rolled up Randy Orton, and Shane went for the pin, but he was on Daniel Bryan's side of the ring when he did so, and he went for the 1-2, and then he stopped before the 3, even though it was obvious that Randy still had his shoulders down, and so he made that conscious decision that he wasn't going to, that he was going to perhaps let the team of Kevin and Sammy lose so that they would get fired, and he kind of, I guess, allowed his rage and his anger at them take over the fairness of what he knows is right. And so because of that, uh, Daniel Bryan got very angry and got really like right up in Shane's face and.
Like he was all night anyway. Like,
well, he was all up in Randy's face, is what he was. He was like, "Do you tap me?" And so Randy went for an RKO during that, but Sammy reversed it into another roll up, and we did see Daniel Bryan go for a pin on Shane's side of the ring this time, and he did go for a fast count to I guess I would say that obviously we won't know until we see SmackDown to see what Daniel Bryan says for himself. But from what I think it is that Daniel Bryan was simply doing the thing that he thought was right to make up for Shane taking a more selfish route. That's what I would say it is. I don't think it's Daniel Bryan turning heel like a lot of people had maybe hoped or predicted. I think it's more that Daniel just knows um, that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were the rightful winners, and they should have been declared the winners before, and so he was just kind of making up for that mistake of judgment on Shane McMahon's side. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'm not sure what it would what will happen because I think at this point, you can't just have Shane fire them after this because that would be what's the point of the match if you did that. So I'm not sure if just Kevin and Sammy are off the hook and or whatever, and the focus is going to be more towards Daniel Bryan and Shane. I don't know if this leads to a match at WrestleMania. That'd be interesting if it did, because of the question of Daniel Bryan's health and whether or not WWE will clear him, even though other doctors have. They obviously have their reluctance, which is understandable. So it'll just be interesting to see in the coming weeks if we see it start to shift towards Daniel versus Shane, or if it kind of continues to perhaps another bout with Kevin, or I don't know. It'll be interesting, but it's kind of up in the air, and it's probably one of, if not the most interesting things going on SmackDown at the moment. So it's interesting to see what will happen.
And the main event featured the WWE Championship match being contested between the champion AJ Styles and the challenger Jinder Mahal with the Singh brothers. Um, Yay. I'm hoping Jinder's out of the title picture now. He did lose this match, obviously. And so I would assume that, and I would think it'd be a safe assumption to say that he's out of the title picture, at least for a while, at least past WrestleMania. Hopefully he doesn't touch WrestleMania at all, which is pretty bad to say. But regardless, that means AJ Styles will be walking into the Royal Rumble as champion, which will mean a new number one contender. So I guess at this point it's kind of hard to tell who will be called to that role. Yeah, definitely Mojo Rawley. Duh, why didn't I think of that? Um, no, definitely Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode. No, I doubt that he will get pushed that far up that quickly. But then again, I could be wrong. But who knows? It'd be interesting to see who that is. If it's not Jinder Mahal, and I'm really hoping it's not Jinder Mahal. But the match itself was not anything that interesting. I guess that the ending was kind of, it was nice because it made it look like it really put us on an emotional roller coaster because not that we thought Jinder had a chance of winning, but that he kept on like getting the upper hand and he hit a Colossus and like did a couple other things. It was like, come on, like how can one person not kick out of all of this? And like, but AJ Styles did it because he's phenomenal. Um, and the ending saw AJ Styles put Mahal in the calf crusher, and even though Mahal was about to reach the ropes, he turned him around and brought him closer to the middle of the ring, and Mahal tapped. And that's interesting for two reasons. One is that the Colossus has been, when Styles kicked out of the Colossus, I think it's the first time at least since Jinder's become champion, like at the beginning or close to the beginning of the year, because that's like been a very protected finisher. And I have no idea why, but it doesn't even look that painful, except when he did it on one of the scenes, and like he landed on his head. Um, but it was interesting because of that reason. So Styles was the first one, I think, for at least for a very long of my memory, but also that Jinder Mahal tapped out, and not that that's too like surprising, but at the same time, like you think that I guess to protect him in order to give him some sort of credibility for this, if he has a future title run, to say that he lost this one or his last chance by submission. Is a little harder to come back from than I just lost by like pinfall or count out or something like that. Um, but either way, we're happy that this ended with AJ Styles keeping the title, and that that brings a mediocre pay per view to a happy ending, um, because it would have been it. It would have definitely been the worst pay per view if Mahal had won the title. I don't know. I don't know really if that's much of a stretch, but that does bring an end to what I would consider very mediocre, not very underwhelming pay per view, especially for it being the last pay per view of 2017. So we're ending 2017 off on a bad note on pay per view if it comes to pay per views.
Yeah. But next up is the Royal Rumble, which is always super exciting. And it's the start of the road to WrestleMania, which is pretty awesome. We'll be heading towards WrestleMania, which will mark a year as in this channel, the Wawa Echo. We started right before WrestleMania this year, so that'll be cool. Um, but that's what we thought of Clash of Champions 2017. This has been our aftermath video. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. We'd very much appreciate it. And please comment down below what you thought of Clash of Champions. If you agree with us on any of the matches, or if you disagree. Maybe you really did think that Mojo Rawley versus Zack Ryder was the best match of the year. If so, you don't understand wrestling whatsoever. But it's cool. It's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, no matter how wrong it is. And if you did enjoy the our analysis of the pay per view, and if you want to see more of our content, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. We for every pay per view have predictions and reactions and the aftermath, and we also every week have Raw Rundown and SmackDown Survey where Zach and I go through our respective shows and we say what we thought of everything and what we liked and what we didn't like. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss anything, and hopefully you will enjoy. But with that, guys, we're gonna say goodbye for the aftermath for this year. We'll see you next year in the aftermath. But with that, I'm Parker.
I'm Zach.
I'm Rachel.
And we are Wawa Echo, and we will see you all very soon. Peace.